Police in Tenerife have this morning called off the search for missing Jay Slater, with still no sign of the teenager. The dramatic development will be heartbreaking for Jay's family, who have never given up hope of his safe return. The son understands the 19-year-old's mum and dad have been informed and are being comforted by family and friends. The 14-day hunt for Jay, involving sniffer dogs, helicopters and mountain rescue experts, has found no trace of the teenager. In a statement, Tenerife Civil Guard said officers would continue to act on any tip-offs, but the active work here on the ground would cease. Yesterday, this area, near the village of Masca, was a hive of activity as dozens of police officers and volunteers did one last sweep of the valley, but found nothing at all. Now, according to sources, while the search for Jay is over, the case is still very much in play and detectives are looking at all possibilities.
Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Wednesday morning, the 17th of July. And since the horrible news yesterday of the finding of 19-year-old Jay Slater's body in a ravine, about 20 minutes walk, it has been stated, from his last GPS location, which was in a brushy area close to the path at the beginning of the Barranco Juan Lopez trail. Of course, Jay went missing on the 17th of June, so it's 29 days of searching for Jay and a whole heap of conspiracy theories, some realistic, some theories were realistic, others were wild, absolutely wild. Anyway, in this video, what we're going to do is explore the dissection of the case. News outlets and pundits, social media people alike, are all now talking about what on earth happened. Why was Jay there in a ravine? Lots of people in my comments have said he was pushed off a cliff, or his body was dumped there. It's an extremely inhospitable place to take a body to dump. You'd have to get that body either by boat and then climb up the steep Barranco, or you'd have to come down, and going down is equally steep and precarious. So I don't think so. I think my theory, and I share this with other people, Christopher Tenerife, the TikToker, for example, has also thought that Jay was heading for the coast. Mark Williams-Thomas, the investigator, has said that he believes, based on his investigations, that Jay was alone when he made his last phone calls to his friend Brad and his friend Lucy. And there's no reason to suggest that he was kidnapped or anything like that. But I think we're all in the minority. Those people who think that Jay was on his own and something horrible befell him, we are in the minority still, I think. But as well as questions about, well, why on earth was Jay there? What on earth was he thinking? To those people who are prepared to accept that this was a tragic accident, there's other people talking about the Airbnb, what happened at the Airbnb. Now, Mark Williams-Thomas has said that he had reason to believe that Jay was scared when he left the Airbnb. We know he didn't want to go back to the Airbnb, so there's the possibility that something happened at the Airbnb, that either he felt intimidated or the two guys, one of them apparently had gone to sleep, and the other one, convicted drug dealer Ayub Qasim, was awake, but Jay just left. Ayub said he just left. He asked Ophelia for a bus times, and there was no bus until 10 a.m, and he just walked off, and Ophelia saw him walking up the road, up the hillside. Unless all of these people are in an extravagant cover-up, then you've got to assume that Jay did leave on his own. And there may not have been any intimidation. There may not have been anything at all untoward in that Airbnb. It may have been on the beginnings of a come down because he'd been partying for 3 days. He was dehydrated. He was definitely, in my opinion, not thinking straight. And he made some bad decisions. And possibly alongside that, he was paranoid, because some drugs can make you very paranoid. So maybe he was paranoid. And he felt that he just needed to get home as quickly as he could. And he thought he could cut off a large amount of the journey that Apple Maps would have shown him by going via the coast. It makes sense to me, but hey, let me know if it makes sense to you in the comments. Now, Talk TV are dissecting the case in terms of why did it take so long to find him? Why did it take 29 days to find him? Why did the police lie? In the introduction, I showed you one report from June the 30th. The police search from late June 17th until June 30th. They'd done like 12 full days. And then they said they were pulling out the search. That weekend, they'd asked for volunteers to come and help to scan the hillside. And that was kind of their last-ditched attempt, we all thought. But unbeknownst to us, they'd carried on that search discreetly, not telling the public anything. Lots of people are saying was a bad move because it opened that void that is filled with conspiracy theories. And I do agree with that. I do. I always say that when police just go completely radio silent in a high-profile case, it means that people will fill that void with their own conspiracy theories. However, in this instance, I'm wondering whether they decided to do that so that they could search those really dangerous, inhospitable ravines and not be hampered by media outlets trying to, post people on the beach or post people at the top of the ravines. And TikTokers weren't there. TikTokers were searching, still searching the hillside. I think that's why they did it, honestly. I think that's sleight of hand. I think it was a clever move in some respects, but it did create that void. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, so this is an interview with Mike Neville, who's a former Metropolitan Police detective. Metropolitan Police, for those not familiar, are the police in London, the capital of England. And he was the head of the missing persons unit. So I'm going to play a few minutes of this and comment on it because I think it sums up nicely what people are thinking.
It was 29 days ago that we heard that he'd phoned a friend in the holiday zone. He was in this remote area on the north of the island. Now, that phone call was made from a place just a few yards from where his body was found yesterday after 29 days. Now,
it's not a few yards. It's not a few yards. No, it's not a few yards. It's about 20-minute walk. So you can walk more than a mile in 20 minutes. But in that location, that hillside is steep. If you look at this Google Earth image that I'm playing right now, and you look at the elevation change, what that tells you is how high the ground is above sea level. You'll see if you go to sea level, it's 0. And this is in meters. I don't know how to change it because I don't work in meters, but a meter is 39 inches, so just over a yard. And it's very steep, very, very steep. And there's some big drop-offs. If you, this is only approximate, but there's some big drop-offs. But it's not like, as some people think, Jay would have fallen 600 meters. Because I don't believe he climbed right to the top and then basically plunged off. I think it was more like, he slipped. He maybe rolled for some of the way and then fell for some of the way, and he just couldn't right himself. And the report from the preliminary autopsy was that his cause of death was trauma associated with falling in a rocky area. And it's multiple traumas, multiple broken bones, and that's consistent. I think he's also had a head injury because he said he died instantly. I think he's fallen on his head. I think there's obvious signs of a head injury. Whether we'll hear the full autopsy in due course, I don't know. I don't know whether Spanish police release autopsy reports. I'd like to see the autopsy report, but certainly in Britain, you can't get your hands on an autopsy report unless you're family. But yeah, it's not a few yards. It's about 20 minutes walk. So he was dead by the time people started looking for him, and that is tragic.
Difficult terrain, I get that, but that seems a bit strange. Why did it take 29 days to find him so close to where the last report of him was?
Well, to clarify, I was the head of a missing persons unit. So with that, I would say, I'm surprised, given the proximity. But looking at the terrain where you've got a helicopter actually winching the body out, how far, I'd be interested to know how deep is the ravine that he was actually found in.
From the top of this ravine, the Barranco Juan Lopez trail, it's about 600 metres, give or take. But he's not fallen from the top, I don't believe. He's not climbed up the top, I don't believe. I don't think he's gone on a ridge walk, let's put it that way.
It's how the Guardia Civil, the Spanish National Police, have said, we're not searching, but then they were searching.
That's what I wanted to ask you. They made a big thing. It was 2 Sundays ago, we've called off the search, but they hadn't. So there was this strange lack of communication with the public. There were no press conferences, there were no posters put up, no announcements, no calls for help. The only thing they did was to lie and say they've called the search off, but they hadn't.
It was odd in the sense that if you look back, we were guilty in this country. If you look at the Nicola Bully investigation, where she sadly drowned in Lancashire, the Lancashire police messed all the PR up. They painted a false narrative about her life, which was eventually found out.
In the Nicola Bully investigation, which I know very well because Nicola drowned in my county, the great county of Lancashire. Jay Slater is also from the great county of Lancashire, from Oswaldtwistle in the east of the county. I don't know Oswaldtwistle, I don't know East Lancashire at all, really. I live in the south of the county. Nicola was about 25 miles from me, to the north. I visited the scene, the area, filmed it. One time when Nicola was still missing, and twice after she'd been found. Got lots of footage of the area, talked a lot, got a large playlist about Nicola Bully, so go and check those out. And from very early doors, from the first time that I visited on the 6th of February, Nicola went missing on the 27th of January. And as soon as I saw that river and that location at the bench, it was obvious to me. It was straightforward that she'd fallen in. Straightforward. But people can't understand straightforward. They can't understand it. And that's understandable. In psychology, I was a psychologist for over 20 years, by the way, there's a theory called attribution theory. Attribution theory tells us that people need to seek the causes of events. We have this need. It's part of the human condition. And unusual or sudden or traumatic events, things that you really wouldn't want to happen in your own life, you work really hard to seek the causes. It's like a survival mechanism that if you can understand the cause of this sudden, serious, devastating, traumatic event that's befallen someone else, then you can be safer in your own life. You can assure yourself that that would not happen to me. I wouldn't be so stupid. With accidents, you can't control. I mean, to a certain extent, if you, I don't know, went bungee jumping with a rope that was, frayed, and you had an accident, then yeah, there's fault attributed to you if you knew that the rope was frayed. But accidents, pure accidents, happen. They happen every day. Most of them are minor. I fall all the time. I fall down my stairs. I fall in the fields all the time. But I've never had something really serious happen to me. But just occasionally, a fall can be deadly. You can fall down your own stairs and die. You can fall in your own yard and die. It can happen just in an instant. But most falls are inconsequential. You might get bruised, you might even break your wrist or whatever, but it's small fry when you compare it to fatal accidents like falling in a river or falling down a ravine. And people, for some reason, can't get their heads round the simple. They can't get their heads round Occam's razor because of that sudden, unusual, traumatic nature of it. There has to be something more to it. And that's why I think people in the true crime community, they've only got one tool in the toolbox, and that's a hammer. And therefore everything must be a nail. Everything must be a crime. And it usually isn't, honestly, in these situations. It usually isn't. But we're compelled. We're compelled, and it is part of the human condition. We all do it. And that's why you have to stay grounded and stay absolutely within the facts of the case. And the facts of this case, Jay's case, it tells us he was on his own and he was heading in a particular direction, and that's where they found him. And the Guardia Civil and the mountain rescue people continued to work there because they had this working hypothesis that turned out to be correct, as in the Nicola Bulley case. They had one major working hypothesis which turned out to be correct. But it doesn't mean to say that police don't make mistakes. You know, like I said, in saying absolutely nothing, you create this vacuum. In the Nicola Bulley case, Lancashire police made a huge mistake in releasing that Nicola was menopausal and that she had been suffering from headaches, and it just put a whole spin on the case that wasn't necessary. And that was one of the things that the November 2023 analysis of the handling of the case by the College of Policing here in the UK, that was one of their major criticisms of Lancashire Police. They said that their search efforts were exemplary. They had no problems with the search efforts. They said they could have cordoned off the area for a while they had a look at it. But other than that, the actual search on the ground was absolutely fine, no problems with that. But it was the PR that was the problem. And I think in this case, I think in saying absolutely nothing, it has been a problem. But then again, it's a double-edged sword, and I do understand why they did it in this instance.
They've created this, we stop searching, and then the vacuum is then filled, you know, with stolen Rolex watches, drug dealers, missing boats, and all sorts of stuff. And if they just kept people informed that we're continuing the search, they could have asked for more specialist help. There's money there, apparently, that they could have used to call in all sorts of specialist search teams who've got expertise about going down these ravines. And
well, they had the specialists who were working with the Guardia Civil, so they didn't need it, honestly. They didn't need it. If they'd had more people, could they have found him a few days earlier? Maybe they could. But they needed, I guess, I'm just guessing here, but they needed to limit the amount of people down those ravines because they're dangerous. So, again, I can understand why they did it.
Have been found sooner, but it would say, well, the only, I suppose, good thing about the whole thing is at least the family's got some closure. It's not the end that they would have wanted, but the worst scenario is that somebody is simply missing forever and there's no end results.
I totally agree with that. Totally. It's closure. I mean, look, the family will never get over this, but they will learn to live with it. I know it's corny, but time is a great healer. Take it from one who knows. I lost a son to a tragic, careless driver who drove away, leaving my son dead on the ground. My son was 21, so I totally understand how that family feels. It's true, the old adage, time is a great healer. Your life is forever changed, but your life moves on. You have two choices, sink or swim. You either choose to move on with your life, and you know you always have that hole in your life, but you move on and you deal with it, or you can sink, and you spiral into major depression, and your life can essentially be over. You've got two choices. I chose the former. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I just hope that Jay's family are given the privacy and they're afforded the decency and the respect to begin to deal with this in whatever way they see fit. I hope they have lots of help, lots of support. I hope the community holds them close and they get through this. It's horrible, but I hope they get through this. Jay Slater, 19 years old, in his final year of an apprenticeship to become a bricklayer, had a decent future ahead of him. Yeah, I can't say any more. It's just horrible. And my heart is with them. My heart is with them. But they will get through this, I think. I think these are strong people. These are Lancastrian people. We're strong. We're strong here in Lancashire. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.